I, I felt like we've done a lot of slides. There are a few slides here, but I wanted to tell a story about why. Why is creating a standard framework important for us? So as you can see here, it was a dark and stormy night, and I was filling up the family truckster, and we were getting ready to go visit grandma. And had the truck filled and ready to go, and my wife said to me, "Did you change the windshield wiper blades?" And so it was raining. It was early in the morning, and I had already purchased the windshield wiper blades, but not put them on. So I got them out. And if you go to the next slide, got them out, and come to find out, there are 6 different wiper arms on 6 different kinds of vehicles. And you needed to have a penny to determine, which size wiper blade arm went on this wiper. And it was a mess. And if you go to the next slide, Kris, you guys may remember the movie A Christmas Story. I was out there in the rain, getting wet, trying to read these instructions. And I was weaving a tapestry of obscenities that would have made Ralphie's father proud. I finally got the wiper blades on, but in the end, here I was with a wiper blade kit that was supposed to interface with my car's wiper arm. There were 6 different wiper arms to interface with. The kit came with, it felt like 17 different parts. I dumped them out on the hood of the car and ended up throwing 16 of those 17 parts out because I only needed one to interface with my wiper arm. That's a real quick story to say that there are benefits to having a standard interface. What if we just had one interface for wiper arms to match up with the wiper blades? What if we had one interface that we could have, one framework that we had that was, I don't want to say standardized, but a standard way that we could have these devices interact with the software and the end users that are using them? It would have made it much simpler for the vendor that was providing the wiper blade. They wouldn't have to provide 17 different pieces, of which 16 get thrown away. And it would have been much easier for the end user, because the end user wouldn't have had to stand in the rain reading a really complex set of instructions, trying to figure out which one to hook up to what. Kris, you and I were talking, it's similar to a story with all of those charger cables we have for our mobile phones, and how standardization in that space has helped. So we have fewer ways to connect our phones and charge them and connect them to our devices.
So, and then not just for phones, right? That's expanded to your Bluetooth speakers and lots of devices using the same connectors, right? So I have 16 cables, any of which, when I find it, will work for most of my devices. I don't have to find the one specific cable.
Exactly.
As a counterpoint to that, though, I have dongles hanging off of my MacBook right now. So
yes, that's true.
Sometimes one way to solve all problems doesn't always work. And I think we've seen that throughout the course of our discussions today, that we need to come to common ways, but they're force fitting everything into just one sometimes doesn't work either. Yeah. But that's why we need a community to work on this, right?
Exactly. That's why we want everybody to come together so we can figure out what is the best way to reduce the number of parts needed to connect these things together. I think Kyle,
so that's right. And so I think one other thing that we definitely want to stress here is, I don't think we in any way want this to become a standards body or a standards organization.
No.
So, this is we envision this and we want this to be, and it will be, an open source project. Right. So, we need to move it in that direction. And I think that means code. That's the thing that we need to get to relatively quick here as well. And, there's been plenty of talks over the past 10 years about standards bodies versus open source and all of that. You've seen the IETF move towards hackathons and try to move towards code. You've seen open source try to move towards standards bodies. I think we should just ignore all of that, and we should just move towards actually getting to code. So Kris, could you go to the next slide? I think we mentioned this as well. This was mentioned yesterday. So OPI is going to be joining the Linux Foundation. So that's where this is headed, and that process is going to take a while at this point. But that's the direction we're going. So next slide, please. And I apologize to anyone from Open Daylight. I don't know if Tom is still around or not. Rob remembers this too, I'm sure as well. You know, this comment, right? Code is the coin of the realm. As annoying as it may have sounded back in the day, I think we should definitely move towards that, right? And make it so that we have running code, right? And we can actually get to this point and drive things forward through code as well. Next slide, please, Kris. Right, so we can look to drive standards via code. I mean, I don't like using that word, right? But we should try to get there, right? So we're working on APIs. There's different API groups. There's 2 of them already. We should get to code for those APIs. And we can get to the point where we can start writing code. It doesn't have to be perfect right away. We can always iterate. That's what code is. We should have code that makes use of the APIs so we can verify the APIs are good. Test code for all of this as well. But the point is, we should look to move towards getting to code over the next month here, I think, and get to that point. So go ahead, Kris.
So to that end, come help us move to getting to code. We've had a lot of great discussion today, but a lot of these things will work themselves out as we try and develop things, right? So as we try things, we will fail many times, but we will learn a lot along the way, and we will also succeed in many spaces. So come join us to do that. Once again, and I've put this link many times in the chat, there's the opiproject.org website that will give you a Google form where you can request, to join a couple of pre-booked orientation sessions that I have scheduled for next week, where I can go over more details. You can ask questions, and we'll discuss the subgroups that are going on and how to join those. If you want to go look at what's already existing, both the IPDK.io website, which links to their GitHub, and the Diamond Bluff GitHub have some information out on them of where the projects are at. As we've talked about before, these are coming together under OPI, but it's not starting over. It's more, working from both bases, towards common goals. So with that, I did.
While you're bringing that up, I saw Elad had his hand raised while you're bringing up the next thing. Sorry, Kris, go ahead. Keep bringing it up, and we'll let him.
Yep.
Ask a question. Does he have a question? Let me there. I unmuted him.
As a suggestion, actually, can we create buckets for the code for each and every step? Meaning a bucket for management and BMC, a bucket for drivers, a bucket for APIs, so we can separate the code into these work groups that we discussed before?
Yep. We are planning to have separate repos under the broader GitHub project to do exactly that. Yep. It's already, some of the subgroups that have already formed already have their own, private repos, private only at this point, just because we're getting off the ground. But intention will be to make them public, right? But yeah, so different repos for different buckets, exactly how we've been proceeding so far. And then obviously we're going to have some glue parts later to figure out how to piece them together in the larger puzzle. But yep, that is what we want to do. All right, Kyle, did you want to talk about the goals here? So this is sort of what we have published out for some high level goals that we've been iterating on. And I think these align a lot with a lot of the topics we've covered in the last couple breakout sessions.
Yeah, for sure. And there was a whole goals group that spent the last 2 months working on this, collecting information from the companies that have been participating over the last couple of months and iterating to come up with this. And, I think it's good to show this. I don't know if we need to walk through all of this for sure now, but it is on the public GitHub. Anyone can go to the Diamond Bluff GitHub and they can see this. I think this was just actually merged last week, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep,
something like that. So the goals are there. This is where we're at now. And again, this is all, feel free to propose a pull request if someone wants to change what these are, add something or remove something. I think that's totally possible. People can do what they want there.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing you sort of touched on there, Kyle, but I don't know that we've really explicitly said it, is that while, a few of us were kind of helping lead this event, there have been a lot of companies that have been contributing already. This is not just an Intel, F5, and Red Hat project, right? There have been many companies that have already participated, and we want more to participate, but like just making sure everybody doesn't have the impression that this is just like these three companies. This is a large collaboration. There's a lot of folks here that you've seen, present that have been contributing to these goals, to the vision statement, to the subgroups. So just giving credit where credit's due. Don't want to explicitly necessarily call people out publicly if they don't want to call themselves out, but yeah, just clearing that up.
So Jamal has his hand raised. I think, there we go. Go ahead, Jamal.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So for sure, you need governance for this to be fair. I was just listening, and there's all kinds of, I could hear a lot of vendor scribbling on the side. There's going to be code scribbling, whose code is better, or why is somebody else's project. Why did you pick the Linux Foundation? I mean, is it because that's where everybody goes, or was there some value prop you saw in choosing them as?
Yeah, so I'll definitely deal with this one for sure. So we looked at, so to be clear, I think, Jamal, right now we're just using the DCO for all contributions at this point, but we wanted to expand it past that. So we looked at the Linux Foundation and we looked at Open Infra Foundation as well. The problem with Open Infra was, number one, not many of the companies were members of Open Infra at this point. So in terms of using that as a foundation to host the project, it was going to require those companies likely to become members of Open Infra. Open Infra had another requirement where they required at least one member to be a platinum member, which is a $250,000 a year contribution. Currently, Red Hat is the only company that's a platinum member there, and we can't rely on them maintaining that status. So essentially, those are the main reasons we picked the LF. From a cost perspective, they were both roughly the same. They were within, rounding here.
Yeah, there's still some, I hate to use this term, but some sort of country club membership, even with the Linux Foundation. Like, how does a small company like ours play any role in this?
Absolutely. Right? No, trust me.
We can't afford to be platinum members.
Listen, no one has been more a critic of the Linux Foundation as a service than myself over the years. I also acknowledge they do a lot of really good work, and their events are really good, and they do a really good job managing some of that stuff.
The events are definitely, they know how to run conferences.
Yes, they do.
Exactly, 100%, right? And so the goal is not to exclude companies like yours. In fact, the goal is to include companies like yours as well. And so we're going to make it so that small companies such as yours are able to come in there as well. We do have and Jamal, I actually would love to get your feedback on it. There's a governance doc merged in there where myself and a few other folks spent a bunch of time coming up with the governance model we wanted for this, rather than being kind of force-fed a governance model from either LF or Open Infra. So it'd be great to get your input on that as well, if you want to review that.
I mean, so one of the challenges when Open Daylight was started, Big Switch had some code already, and for some reason they were outvoted. It was not a technical merit decision. It was based on.
Jamal, you're going to make me sick. Don't make me relive this.
It's okay. Every few years, Rob.
Right. It becomes a sort of I hate to use the word again, a scam of some sort. Who pays you more? It's pay to play, essentially.
Yep. And
if you want a really successful project, I mean, I don't know if Open Daylight is still alive, but that was the moment I stopped paying attention. If you really 100%. Want this to succeed, then you have to be, either it's a meritocracy or, some other metric has to be used, right?
Yeah, 100%. And this is another reason why you saw me pushing for code as well. Up to this point, we have no code. IPDK has code. Diamond Bluff has no code other than website code. We need to get to code for that as well. And we need to let that drive the discussion, I think, going forward. So I'm with you. You and I could sit together and commiserate on a lot of this stuff. I lived through a lot of what you're talking about. I lived through all of the OpenStack stuff as well, which was its own pile of wreckage. So, I hear you, and I appreciate your comments, and I'd love to chat with you. In fact, even one-on-one after this at some point.
And one of the reasons that we had this event before finalizing joining a foundation and what our governance model is so that we could solicit more feedback from exactly points of view
Yeah.
like yours, right? So this isn't a finalized decision. And like, Kyle said, we want to drive more of the conversation of what the governance model needs to be instead of letting the foundation tell us. So now is the time. Come join our governance group, bring your point of views, and make sure we're not making the same mistakes that other projects have made in the past.
I'd be interested in taking a look.
Yeah,
Perfect.
I look forward to hearing from you, Jamal.
Thanks.
It looks like Elad has raised his hand as well.
So I was wondering, since we just said that we do have IPDK already around, would we be able to just ask the other vendors who are not using IPDK currently? Because I think I heard Marvell said that they do support it. So maybe we can ask the other vendor, are they willing to use that as the basis for at least that part of the equation?
Yeah, I think IPDK is open. Anyone who wants to go and use it is definitely can go ahead and take a look at it and see if they want to use it. So I don't think anything's preventing that from happening. In fact, quite the opposite, I'd say.
I'm saying being proactive about it, asking the other members, the other vendors, if they're willing to use it as a basis.
You want me to
Yeah,
take a
for
swing
sure.
at that,
I
Kyle?
think. Well,
I think-
I
go-
think it's
you
fair
go
to
on it.
say that that multiple people have invited. For example, if you're looking at vendors, NVIDIA is the one that I'm sure you're talking about. Multiple people have invited NVIDIA to participate in OPI, and to my knowledge, they haven't shown up yet. Same thing with Pensando. So those would be the other two main vendors I think about. And definitely they're encouraged to join and participate, and we could ask them that question. So
Pensando has been participating, so yeah.
well, not really. I'd say they're not at this event as far as I know. I mean, we've talked to them. I'm saying I haven't seen them at any OPI things at all, is the point I'm making.
I
So,
see. The OPI events, and not this. I think there was someone today. I think Mario was here today, but yeah,
Yeah.
I see what you mean. Yeah.
But I think the question is broader than that. It's not just the companies, the adapter vendors that are there now or not. I think there is a valid point in saying, at the broader members, is Red Hat willing to make their products work with IPDK? Is Marvell willing to make even the members that are here, there's probably some value in evaluating, at some point, maybe not today, definitely not today, evaluating how the companies feel about the existing things that are there, because it would put, I think, it would validate the direction that things are going if other companies could see that, yes, we are getting buy-in from what we already have there, broadly, even amongst our member companies, right? We've got buy-in at goals already, but how we're going to do the technical details is maybe a different question. So I think that's probably a fair point for us to discuss at some point. I'm presenting, so I can't see whose hands are raised. Somebody else.
We had a Paul Crumley from IBM has got his hand raised.
Hi, am I off mute? Yeah, I guess so. So, no, I think that I'm going to go back to the use cases. I think that what might help also get participants is if we can define the scope of what we're trying to do. Right now, just listening, I think there's a lot of great ideas, but it still seems pretty big. And I think if we could pick and just kind of get some of those use cases down, I do believe that would help other participants decide whether this is a place they want to play or not, right? Whether they're going to be in a giant, well, I'll just stop with that comment.
yeah, I think that's what the goals are. So I'd encourage people to go look at the goals to see if what they want to do aligns with those goals currently, and either propose new goals or, like you said, decide that their goals are not aligned with this project.
Yep.
Right.
Okay. Any other questions from folks? I do see the question. There was no one from NVIDIA here today. I'm not positive. I didn't recognize names from NVIDIA. They were invited. I'm not sure. I can say that there absolutely wasn't anybody from NVIDIA that dropped in at all over the course of the 2 days. They never said they weren't coming, but Also, one last thing, we did record all these sessions. We do plan to post the recordings of these sessions once we get speaker permission to post, and we'll post the slides and the recordings. So watch the websites for the event and for the projects. There'll be more info that'll be posted there. So that will be where we'll share it. And then you can share with others if you heard something that you think is going to resonate with other companies, other people within your own companies, you know, we can share it there. And yes, I do think that NVIDIA is just super busy because GTC is next week for them. So we will reach out and share the recordings with them again after this, once we have them posted, because I don't think that them not being here was necessarily like, we're not willing. It's more a time of resource and time, I think, at this point. So. All right.
Shall we wrap up here?
I think so.
Alrighty. Well,
Awesome.
I just, on behalf of you know, the team that pulled this together, I just want to thank everyone for your participation in the alpha version of the OPI event. Having such a dynamic, interactive discussion is really what we were hoping for. So we're really thrilled by that. You know, as Kris mentioned, all of the videos will be posted, and you can look for both the IPDK site as well as the Diamond Bluff site when we've got them posted and processed, along with the different presentations. Once we've got them, you'll see the links that will be there. If you have any feedback on this, please, again, give it to, go to the Slack channels for, either, IPDK or Diamond Bluff. Let us know what you thought of the event, and if there's things you think we might be able to do differently in the future, because we do think that this is something we will be doing again. With that, for everybody that celebrates St. Patrick's Day, have a great time, and we're going to wrap it up. Thank you.